Hi everyone. This week I'm going to be talking about how I spent less than 10,000 Canadian dollars on a year of travel. It's going to be good. I hope you like it. People, they come to me and they say, I wish I had the money to travel, or I wish I had the time. These are two things that I feel like are stopping a lot of people from making the decision to travel or go away for a long time. Let's start with this first of all. How can you travel long term? A lot of good opportunities come between jobs or between career changes or maybe between different school, like say between high school, university, or maybe between an undergraduate degree to a master's or whatnot. Maybe these are good times to take maybe a few months or longer to go away and travel. If you want to go all the way from Canada to Asia, that's a long trip. So maybe you want to make it a longer one. This is going to help you out. What are the things I did to travel abroad long term? The first thing and the biggest thing that helped me travel for a longer period of time was Workaway. Workaway is a website where people sign up as hosts or as volunteers. And as a volunteer, you would help out for a few hours a day or whatever they have decided. And in exchange, you would often get either free accommodation or maybe free food or both. It depends on what the host has posted. So it's all different things in literally every country in the world. You would have to do lots of research on it to figure out what would suit you. But I honestly feel like there's something for everyone there. There's work in schools, there's work on farms, there's administrative type work in guest houses or hostels. There's so many different things. I can't even probably mention all of them because there's just so many options. But the good thing about it is that you can probably find something that suits you or that you'd be interested in. Another one that works pretty much the same is HelpX. I'll put both links to Workaway and HelpX in the description so that you can check them out. But again, it works the same thing. Free accommodation or food in exchange for some work. The other reason why I think this is actually a great opportunity, regardless of the fact that you can save some money doing it, is that it gets you to local people in more local places. What do I mean by that? Well, when you go to a new country, it's often hard to find accommodation in cities or towns that are not oriented for tourists. So what Workaway does can bring you away to different towns where only people live, like local people. This is what I did in a lot of instances. One excellent example would be the tiny little village I stayed at in Nepal. There's no one there except for the few local farmers and people. I stayed and worked at a school there while I was visiting. So there would have been no way for me to stay there unless I arranged something with a local, which Workaway helped me do, which I am so grateful for. And I've done this in a bunch of different places. So I would definitely suggest to you to do this if you're looking for a more local experience and you want to get to know what the culture is like and what the people are like in that place. It's a very special experience. If you have time and the energy to volunteer, I definitely suggest you do that. How else did I save money? I also traveled in Europe for a few months during that year of travel, and yet I still managed to spend less than 10,000 in that year. Now, given a lot of the money I did spend was in Europe because Europe is more expensive than my travels in Asia, how did I do that? A few things helped me out. Couchsurfing in Europe while I was there. I did couch surf quite a few times. I was also staying with family in some parts, so that makes it a little bit easier. If you know people, if you have friends or family abroad and you want to visit a city for a few days, maybe hit them up. I'm sure they would be happy to host you. So that's one thing you can do. Couchsurfing gives you another opportunity to get to know locals. If you're not familiar with Couchsurfing, basically you would either be a host or someone who's staying, and it's just as easy as that. It's just free stay. You don't have to volunteer or anything. It's not something like Workaway. A lot of people say that it's hard to find someone to host you if you haven't already hosted yourself. I kind of feel like that's a little bit true, but I didn't host anyone before I started using it, and I still managed to find some people who were willing to meet me and get to know me, so that was good. But if you're really keen on maybe doing that in the future, then maybe while you're still at home, you can start hosting people and using the app there first. Another thing that helped me save was transit in general, booking long, annoying flights. Yes, I traveled to Asia, to Europe, back to Asia, back home, and that's a lot in flights, but I managed to save quite a bit by taking longer flights that are more annoying. But I was away for a whole year, so to spend a day and a half in transit wasn't so much of a big deal to me because I had so much time to spare. So that's one way. The other thing that I think helped me a lot, which I didn't think about in the moment, but now I'm thinking about more, is how I never took taxis. I think I can literally count on one hand the number of taxis I took in a whole year of travel. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think it's true. maybe two hands, but literally if that. I always prefer to take the public bus. Why do I do that? One, it's obviously cheaper. So we're talking about saving money. That's why. The other reason why I think it's better to take a public bus as opposed to a taxi is for safety. Hear me out. You may think that a public bus is scarier, but actually I kind of think the opposite. What's scarier to me is getting into a cab with a usually man who, I don't know what the locals are like in this country if I'm getting there first after getting off a plane. And even if it is a marked taxi, it just kind of feels uncomfortable, especially if it's a place where bartering's involved too, if there's back and forth between how much is this going to be, and then once you arrive, it's going to be a different price. If I get on the local bus, I pay the fare, done. That's it. So there's no argument. There's not any potential creepy drivers that are out to get me. And on a public bus, I'm going to be with other people and especially other women, so it feels more comfortable. For me, that's how I feel about it. But you may have a different opinion on what is more safe, but that's just my take. So transit, cheap flights, taking public transit as much as possible. That's how I saved. The next thing that I did was eating local or cooking for myself. When I say eating local, let's look at some countries in Asia. You can either choose maybe some more restaurants that are geared towards tourists that are a little bit more expensive, or you can maybe eat at the local food stands. Why would I suggest the local food stands? They're cheaper, one. The other thing I would maybe suggest you look out for is look for the places where other locals are eating. That'll give you a hint on two important things. One, the food will be probably more reasonable or at least at par with the norm. And two, it's gonna be good, because if the locals don't like it, they're not gonna eat there. So you'll know that a place is actually good if you see some of the locals that live there that are going there more frequently, right? Makes sense. So eating local is how you can save in Asia, because cooking for yourself doesn't really make sense in Asia because local meals are so cheap. It's like $1 or $2. Cooking for yourself, I would definitely suggest this if you're trying to budget more in places like Europe, because eating out is a lot more expensive. So if you can hit up a grocery store and make some simple meals more often, that'll help you save tons, I promise you. Last thing I want to mention that is a little bit strange, but maybe not. Almost always save my spending or bigger spending for things I really want to do. What I mean by that, let's say in a whole year of travel, if I did all like the tourist opportunities at each single place, went into every single temple, went into every single cathedral, and I spent that money each and every time, I would be spending tons more. But I kind of, after a while, it's like, okay, I've seen this many temples, you know, which ones do I really want to go into? Those were the ones that I would pay and go and see. For the most part, tours I didn't really do unless I had to, like a national park where there's wild animals that could kill you. Yes, you're gonna want a tour because that's dangerous. But there's other things that maybe you could do a tour, but can you go and do that hike on your own? Maybe. So maybe you should do that on your own and not spend the money there instead. But I also do suggest to spend some money on tours to support some local people in some instances, but you don't have to do it all the time. Like I said, save your money for the things that you really want to do. And that'll sort of help you out a bit and be able to let you stretch your trip out a little bit further if that's what you're looking to do. That's it. Those are my main steps on how I saved. If you have any questions about the workaways or anything else that I mentioned, please leave me a comment. I'm happy to answer any questions. And with all that, that's it. And I hope you have an awesome week. Happy adventures!